The film opens with a voiceover that sets the tone. A young boy narrates the history of Vlad the Impaler, once a prince taken by the Turks as a child, trained to kill without mercy, turned into a monster of war. He became known as the Son of the Dragon. He slaughtered thousands and was feared across continents, but then he chose peace. A few weeks earlier, Vlad and his army moved through the rocky terrain of Broken Tooth Mountain, a cursed, jagged place feared by the locals. The soldiers discover a shattered Turkish helmet and a bloodied river nearby. They follow the trail into the mouth of a dark cave. Bones litter the entrance. Inside, the walls are lined with the remains of past intruders. Something lurks in the shadows. One soldier disappears, snatched into the darkness. The others flee in terror, but only Vlad manages to escape. Later, Vlad returns to his castle, shaken but concealing the truth from his wife Mirena and young son Angeris. He tries to carry on with his duties as prince, keeping the peace with the Turkish Empire. But trouble comes sooner than expected. Turkish envoys arrive at the castle. Among them is Hamza, a smug representative of Sultan Mehmed. He brings a message. Mehmed demands 1,000 Transylvanian boys for his army. Vlad knows this practice. He lived through it. He refuses. But Hamza has more to say. The Sultan wants more than 1,000 boys. He wants Vlad's own son, Angeris. As a show of loyalty. As Vlad refuses once more, he knows this means war against the great Turkish army. His advisor tries to calm him, but Vlad understands what's coming. The next morning, Vlad rides toward the Turkish encampment to meet Sultan Mehmed in person. His hope is that his old comrade might show mercy. Inside the Sultan's lavish tent, Mehmed stands calmly. Vlad speaks plainly, offering himself in place of the 1,000 boys, including his own son. He pleads for peace, not out of fear, but out of love for his people. But Mehmed is unmoved. He coldly rejects Vlad's offer. The order stands: tomorrow, the empire will collect 1,000 boys from Wallachia, including Angeris. The following day, as Mehmed's soldiers arrive at the castle gates to collect the children, Mirena confronts Vlad immediately, their voices hushed but heavy with emotion. She demands that he protect their son. Torn between loyalty to peace and the screams of his conscience, Vlad's heart splits. But in the moment that his son's future is placed against all else, he makes his decision. With swift, brutal precision, Vlad tears through the soldiers, cutting them down one by one. There is no hesitation in him now. Not as a prince, and not as a father. And when it's over, no Ottoman soldier is left standing. The moment brings a bitter relief. He has saved his son, for now. But he knows what comes next. Mehmed will not let this go. An army will descend on his kingdom with fury. And Vlad, despite all his strength, knows he cannot protect his people as a man. He turns toward the mountain once more. That same cursed peak, Broken Tooth Mountain, rises like a black scar against the sky. Inside, the silence is thick. The creature is already watching. Vlad calls out into the abyss. He pleads as a desperate ruler, a father, a man with nothing left but the will to protect what matters most. A few minutes later, the ancient vampire appears, its eyes glowing faintly, its twisted limbs barely resembling a man. It speaks with a voice aged like cracked stone. It has waited centuries for someone like Vlad. The vampire lays out the truth of its power, power beyond imagining, speed, strength, senses that can touch the world in ways no mortal ever could. Vlad can have it all, for a price. He must drink its blood for transformation. And if he resists the bloodthirst of human blood for 3 days, he will return to human form. But if he gives in, he will remain a vampire forever. Vlad does not hesitate, he drinks the vampire's blood. The moment the ancient blood touches his lips, the world erupts inside him. Pain sears through his body. His bones twist. His eyes burn. He collapses in agony, screaming as the curse takes hold. Later, he wakes in a riverbank, the dawn sky casting long blue shadows. The world is sharper. He can hear insects humming from a mile away. His senses are reborn. He is no longer just a man, he is something else entirely. From afar, smoke rises. The Turkish army has already begun to march across his lands, torching villages, killing his people. Vlad races back to his castle, not on horseback, but with supernatural speed, covering miles in minutes. When he arrives, a horde of Ottoman soldiers surrounds his castle. Without waiting, Vlad walks straight into their ranks. A breath later, chaos erupts. Vlad moves like a ghost, shredding armor and bone, a blur of violence. He tosses men through the sky, slashes through steel as if it were cloth. The army tries to mount a defense, but their enemy is everywhere. At times, he becomes a swarm of bats, diving through the battlefield like a storm of wings and shadow. No one can land a blow. No one can even see him long enough to try. When it's over, the field is quiet. Corpses litter the ground. Vlad stands at the center, untouched, the fury still pulsing through his veins. Vlad turns to his advisors. He tells them to gather the villagers, every man, woman, and child. Take them to the monastery nestled at the foot of the mountains. It is the last place the Turks might not reach, the only place left where he can protect them. After leading his villagers away from the carnage and closer to the safety of the mountains, Vlad sets up camp with them beneath the shadows of the trees. He sits with his men, but seeing them eat meat makes his eyes darken as the bloodlust begins to claw at him from the inside. Vlad then rises suddenly and flees into the trees, deeper into the forest, consumed by a need to escape what he might do. There, he senses someone watching him. It's Shkeljm, a humble villager and familiar face. When Vlad confronts him, Shkeljm explains he was out hunting bats when he noticed something strange. The bats were following Vlad. That's when he knew. Vlad isn't a man anymore. He doesn't see a monster, he sees a savior. And he offers his blood willingly. Vlad steps back, the thirst tearing at him, but he fights it. His voice trembles as he warns Shkeljm to stay away from him. The next morning, the arrival of Mehmed's grand army, 100,000 strong. When they reach the battlefield, they find a ghastly sight. The remains of the previous army lie strewn and impaled, their lifeless bodies hung high as a grotesque message. Back in the forest camp, Marina stirs from sleep. She looks over and sees Vlad trembling on the floor. She rushes to his side, begging to know what's wrong. Vlad weakly pulls open the tent curtain. A sliver of sunlight pierces through, and where it touches his skin, it begins to blister and peel. Marina screams and yanks him away from the light. In her eyes is terror, but also something else, realization. She looks at him, piecing it all together. He gave up his soul so that their son could live. Vlad, breathless, pleads with her. He asks her to lead the people without him, further up the mountains, to the old castle. Marina, shaken but resolute, steps out of the tent. Dumitru, Vlad's most trusted soldier, asks where the prince has gone. She lies and tells him that Vlad has gone to spy on the Turks, and has left him in command. As the people begin their journey again, Vlad waits. The sun inches lower. The moment dusk falls, Vlad rises and steps into the night, his body transforming into a swarm of bats. Elsewhere, a small unit of Turkish scouts have tracked the villagers and begin attacking them. Suddenly, the air explodes with wings and fury. Vlad arrives. He rips through the Turks in seconds, leaving only broken bodies behind. Later, the survivors arrive at a long-forgotten stone fortress in the mountains. A place of refuge. For now, it is safe. But far away, in the heart of the Turkish war camp, Mehmed listens as spies report the impossible. Vlad has become an abomination. A vampire. The news disturbs Mehmed, but he does not falter. Instead, he orders a force twice as large, 200,000 soldiers, to march on the castle. Elsewhere, back in the fortress, a holy man watches Vlad from afar. He notices the way Vlad avoids the sun, keeping to the shadows. The monk follows him quietly and corners him in a tent. There, with compassion in his voice, he begs Vlad to let him end his suffering, to save his soul from eternal damnation. Before Vlad can react, the monk cuts the curtain, exposing him to a shaft of sunlight. Vlad collapses, screaming as his skin burns. Villagers rush to the scene. With fear and hatred in their eyes, they raise torches. They want to burn the creature that hides among them. But Vlad does not crawl. With anger in his voice, he tells them that he chose this fate for them. That he damned himself to save their lives, their children, and this is how they thank him. Marina steps forward, laying a calming hand on his chest. And the fire in him dims. Later that night, Vlad falls to his knees and prays, not for himself, but for forgiveness. He has made his choice, but he prays that he will not become what the ancient vampire warned him of. Outside the walls, the Turkish army arrives. Vlad stands atop the battlements. He raises his hand to the sky, and the clouds seem to answer. A thunderous swarm of bats descends, summoned by his will. They dive, tearing through tents, horses, and men, dismantling a quarter of Mehmed's force in mere minutes. Vlad lands on the battlefield, hunting for Mehmed. But the man he finds is a decoy. Back in the castle, Mehmed's men find Angeras and Marina. The boy is taken. Far across the battlefield, Vlad suddenly senses it. The sun is rising, his power is fading. He then flies to his family, but sees Marina falling. Vlad dives after her, the wind screams, but he's too late, as she hits the ground. As she draws her last breath, she pleads with Vlad to drink her blood and become what he must to save their son. Vlad stares down at the woman he loves. Then he opens his mouth, and drinks with pain in his heart. Later, Vlad returns to the castle and finds his most trusted men and women dying one by one. They fought to protect the people, and they failed. Vlad kneels beside Dimitru, who barely clings to life. He opens his own wrist, and tells him to drink. Immediately, all of them turn into an army of vampires. They rise with him under the veil of night, reborn in darkness, with only one purpose: vengeance. His vampire army then attacks like a plague. Claws tear through armor. Vlad storms into Mehmed's tent. Mehmed stands tall, cloaked in armor forged from pure silver, holding a long sword laced with the same unholy metal. Vlad's boots touch them, and his legs falter. His body trembles. Mehmed planned this. The silver coins are a trap, and Vlad is growing weaker by the second. Suddenly, Vlad dissolves into a swarm of bats, and reforms to kill Mehmed with one strike. Later, Vlad steps out of the tent into the blood-soaked field with his son. His army of vampires aren't celebrating. They stare at Angeras in hunger. Vlad immediately grabs Kazan and pierces through his heart. The other vampires step back. Suddenly, a monk holding a wooden cross. He tells Vlad that the boy isn't safe here. Not with what Vlad and his army have become. Vlad looks at Angeras, his only family left. He whispers to him, a promise of love that will outlast lifetimes. Then he slowly turns and gives the boy to the monk. Vlad then opens up the sky and a golden beam floods the battlefield. One by one, his vampire warriors burst into flame, their screams lost to the rising dawn. Their bodies burn away to ash. And finally, Vlad himself. Hours later, Shkeljm appears and opens his wrist, letting his blood drip slowly into Vlad's cracked lips. And then, Vlad's eyes open. Centuries pass. The world has changed. Vlad walks through the bustling streets. Unbeknownst to him, the ancient vampire, the one who gave him his power, is watching him. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time. See you soon.